So that's what you're going to be doing in 1.0. And I'm going through here just to make sure that I've covered it all. I think I have. So that's really the who. Who's your customer? How do they buy? 2.0 gets into the how. Okay, how am I going to write a sales presentation? How am I going to formulate the sales presentation for that customer? Okay, and it also has a little bit of who. So Sales 2 takes you, or 2.0 takes you through, how do I prospect for customers? Okay, so I've got my customer. How do I network? Where do my customers come from? What do I do with that list of customers now that I have them? How relevant is that list? Which one of those customers are real customers and which ones are just kicking the tires? Okay. A lot of that comes through networking, those kinds of things. So that is the Reader's Digest version of 2.0. And then you're going to put all that together. And in 2.05, you actually, actually it's not 2.05, it's 2.06. Students will actually make a sales pitch. This will be one of the first times that they will take all of this information that they've gotten together from 1.0 and 2.0 in Sales 2 and kind of put it together into a sales pitch. And this, if you have the curriculum guide printed out, it's on, I think it's on page 72, but that could have changed. Yeah, okay. And in this particular sales pitch, they'll determine a business. We ask them to pick a Fortune 500 company out of the website there, and there's a Fortune 500 website they can choose from, and it has specific information. And these are terms you're gonna recognize. So what's the demographic? What's the psychographic of the company's customers? Okay, all that stuff that they're going to learn in marketing. What kind of competition do they have? And then you're going to put all of this together, and there's specific instructions on there to do a sales pitch. Okay, this will be like a presentation, and then there's a rubric in there for you too. So that's 2.0. It's just pulling your customers together. How do you get that customer list? And then how do I take everything and put it together for a sales pitch? Okay. 3.0. 3.0 is really kind of all about follow-up. What did I learn? What can I learn from those customers? How can I get the information from that customer and make myself better? It's all about kind of making you as a salesperson better. And one of the sections in here talks about conversion rates, key performance indicators. They're also called KPIs, and sales reports. So it's really, really important for a salesperson to be able to read that sales report and understand how to take those numbers and put them into something meaningful. You know, how many potential customers did I convert into actual customers? Those kinds of things. What was the margin on my sales? Did I give too many discounts? What do my customers say about how I performed? Did I give them what they wanted? Let's see, trying to make sure I've got everything in here. Trying to hit the high spots. Okay, so you see it kind of, so Sales 2 so far has taken us from the beginning. What are my customers like? How do they buy? And then where do I find my customers? How do I gear my sales presentation to their buying habits? And then here's my sales presentation. I've sold to them. Now I'm coming back. What did I do well? What did I not do well? How do I look at numbers and determine how I performed? And this also covers, I think Sales 1.0 also covers overcoming objections too, which is a big thing. And in my experience, that's one of the hardest things that salespeople have to deal with, is overcoming objections. So anyway, 4.0 is just the legal and ethical considerations that they need to be aware of as a salesperson, because they can get themselves into a lot of trouble, a lot of legal trouble. So we included that section in there as well. There's a lot of different things. I sometimes will even pull up some episodes of what would you do, because they have some really good little snippets of legal and ethical issues. Sometimes you have to mold them a little bit to what you're teaching, but it's pretty good. Sales, just so you know a little bit about my background, I've been in sales for almost, well, over 30 years now. I was in retail and with several different retailers, from the buying end to the built to the project management construction end to the managing a sales team. And I own a couple of businesses of my own in which I'm involved in selling. So this is near and dear to my heart. And so I've really kind of taken 2.0 and I'm going to kind of take that and apply it kind of to the things that I do and kind of mold it into some of the things that I've been doing in my own businesses. And that's it. Told you it was Reader's Digest.
Thank you so much for that, Donna. And I also want to share with you that we do have the LAPS. Sorry, my mouse has like a weird delay on it. I click and then it just takes a minute. So we do have the list of LAPS referenced for Sales 2. There are fewer, I think, indicators aligned to LAPS than you will find in Sales 1. Mm-hmm. But it's still a good number of LAPS. Mm-hmm. And even without a LAP, you can rest assured that there is plenty of information in the curriculum guide for you to be able to successfully teach this course.
Yes.
And we also have, let me go back to that other slide where we just were. Let me get back to that. Jumping. So there are several projects in Sales 2. There are plenty of ways that you can get your kids up and moving around and getting to know each other and practicing these public speaking skills and presentation skills that we talk so much about. You'll find them pretty early on, especially in 1.0, as they are really trying to wrap their heads around the whole gist of selling, the whole process of sales. There's plenty of role play opportunities from the get-go. So we do encourage you to take advantage of those. Remember that the curriculum guide is just that. It is a guide. So you can, of course, you have teacher autonomy to decide which pieces are best for you and your students. You know your students best, so be sure that whatever you are using is appropriate for them. Are there any questions about the curriculum overview that we just provided? Let's see, anything in the chat?
There's nothing in the chat right now. Okay. But if you have questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the chat.
Mm-hmm. And we have a small group today, yes. So we should have time to entertain all questions and comments. I also want to show real quick the if you have not yet downloaded the curriculum guide, please make sure you do that on Moodle. We do have the guide. Make sure you open up the 2021 curriculum guide for MI32, and it will be in the folder that says issued by NCDPI. So make sure you pull it from that folder. And then we also have the course management system. This is where you can pull what we know as the blueprint or the list of course standards, so that you can pull out the standards, the indicators, their appropriate course weights, and any other course information that you might need. So that'll help you as you start planning, putting together your pacing guide, and other important information. All right, so let's dive into the PBM. All right, does that look normal? Did I zoom out enough? Okay. All right, so the MI32, excuse me, PBM. This was a really interesting PBM to work on for a couple of reasons. We wrote it after we wrote the curriculum. We wrote it during a pandemic, so all of the work that we did on this was done virtually as a team. And where it differs from Sales 1 is that with Sales 1, some of our team members were teaching it currently and had some unique perspective to say, oh, well, let me try this out in class and see if it works. And we didn't have that luxury for Sales 2. So we wrote this with a lot of optimism and a lot of hard work, and we are excited to present it to you. So for the PBM, there are 3 main components, and you will hopefully recognize that it goes right along with the curriculum, just like Donna explained. There's the pre-sales work, there's a sales presentation, and then there's a post-sale. So there's your opportunity for reflection and feedback. The overall scenario is based on the DECA Professional Selling and Consulting Event. And I believe the initials for that are PSE, if you're familiar with the DECA competitive events. And of course, we made sure that it aligns to the Sales 2 curriculum. So this is not adding something totally extra to your bucket, to your plate. You will be able to implement the pieces of this PBM throughout the course, right along with what you're teaching. It just sort of puts a different lens on the content. And of course, you can use the MBA laps to make sure you're teaching the content, which are also aligned to the components of the PBM. Proficiency for this PBM is a minimum of 120 points. The overall possible points is 170. So the first component is the pre-sales report, and it covers all of Standard 2. With this pre-sales report, it is worth a possible 60 points, and it's going to cover everything that you just heard from Donna about 2.0. Pre-visit research, prospect list, customer qualification, sales strategies, competitive analysis, and working on a script for the oral presentation. So we want to emphasize the importance of students really thinking about their sales presentation, not thinking they can just walk in and wing it, which is what we probably all do pretty often, especially as teachers. But we want to get this skill honed in for our students, that it is important to prepare, it's important to practice, and it's important to refine your presentation. The oral presentation, this is, it's a direct alignment to all of Standard 1. So you may notice that the pre-sales was Standard 2, this part is Standard 1, so it seems a little bit backwards. But in teaching the curriculum, we believe it's very important that students understand the process as a whole before they really dig into it. So they get the macro view of sales from beginning to end before they dive into kind of the nitty gritty of the micro pieces. So they get an idea as to the full process and then start looking at, okay, well, how do I begin that process? What's the work that needs to be done before I can begin? So this may take a little bit of thinking through as far as your pacing and your planning for how you're going to implement this in your classroom. But it does cover Standard 1, and honestly, it covers a lot more than just Standard 1, but this is the direct alignment. So the oral presentation is worth 70 possible points. It is designed to be completed after the pre-sales report and obviously before the post-sales report, and it does cover all of the steps of the sales process. And then we get to the post-sales report. It covers Standard 3. It is worth 40 possible points. It is designed to be completed after the oral report. And this has the students working on their reflecting, thinking about how did they do, what information do they need to get feedback, and how can they design a plan for customer support moving forward? Because we know that once they close the deal, once that sale is made, that's not the end of the road. There are still actions that have to be made as part of the selling process to keep our customers. So with this PBM, the scenario is provided by DECA. It is based on the DECA Professional Selling and Consulting event, which is an interesting competitive event because the prompt changes every year. And in the PBM guide, you will see that we have put a link to the DECA website where you will be able to find that prompt, and you can see it directly from DECA. I've also listed here the steps you take, the breadcrumbs that will lead you to the spot to find the professional selling event. So this puts an interesting spin on the PBM, something that's a little bit different from all the others. So for this current school year, the prompt is based on a company that does virtual tours for college campuses. So you're basically putting together a sales presentation to convince a college to utilize the services of creating a virtual tour, which is incredibly timely because we know so many people were not able to visit college campuses. We know how important virtual tours and virtual experiences have been over the past year and a half. So I believe students are going to have a pretty good context for this prompt. But moving forward, every year, DECA will release a new prompt. So you as the teacher, you can choose to stick with this college campus virtual tour company, which is included in the guide, or you could move on to the next year. So for the next school year, you could use the 2022 prompt. And that is up to teacher discretion. That's totally up to you. If you are the kind of teacher that you would prefer to not reinvent the wheel and you have a good arsenal of resources for this particular prompt, you can stick with it. If you are a DECA advisor and you intend to have this project serve dual purposes, both as the PBM and a DECA competitive event, then of course you're going to want to use the most recent DECA prompt. And I'm hoping that my team members can maybe shed some light on how they plan to take advantage of that flexibility. But this is different than all of the other PBMs because the scenario or the prompt could change, although it does not have to. But we put plenty of resources in the guide for you to be able to teach your students about this virtual tour industry for college campuses, and we make sure that you have access to the DECA prompt. And this is what you will see when you follow the directions that you see here. You don't see my little red dot moving around? Okay, good. And then this is what it'll give you. It'll come up as a PDF document, and you'll see it says professional selling. And for our purposes, we are using the marketing category. So there are other prompts that you can use as well. The marketing category was the best fit for this PBM for our purposes. But you can also look at the finance or the hospitality categories. You can look at those scenarios, especially for our schools that maybe have career academies that specialize in hospitality or finance. You can look at those scenarios as well. But currently what we are asking you to do is in that marketing category. Okay, that does it for what we have for you all this afternoon. We are wide open to answer your questions or to go back over something if you need to hear something again. You might have the ability to unmute. You can check on your features. If not, you can type it in the chat.
I'll add something just about DECA really quick.
Yeah, please.
I just checked the website, and the new prompts are not on the website yet. However, the DECA guide is out, and you can get to it through DECA Direct. And probably on the DECA Direct, you can also find just the changes in the prompts. It probably came out in May, right after CDC. They usually put out the next year's prompts. But it is available in the guide. So it's so tiny on my screen, I can't read it to you. However, but they are there. So you could go ahead and look at those prompts if you wanted to. Unfortunately, if you're teaching Sales 2 second semester, CDC's at the end of February. So it would be hard to get this completed in time for using the current prompt for CDC. However, if you have high flyers or current DECA members in your Sales 1 in the fall, this could be an option for them. Like I have some kids that I will offer this as an option for them. But I just wanted to say that they are available and ready for you to see now.
Thank you, Tina. I wasn't sure about the timeline for that, so thank you for
highlighting. I think they're launching a new website. I think part of the reason it hasn't been updated on the website, I think Pam said earlier this week they're launching a new website, a new platform. So I think that some of the updated information on the platform itself still says 2021. But there is a current guide that is probably in the mail on its way to us now.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. And I see that James has asked, can we highlight the DECA marketing outline? James, can you be more specific for us? I'm not sure which information you're wanting.
I'll help a little bit. So
okay.
when you see the professional selling in the guide, there's the subject of finance, hospitality and tourism, and marketing. So it's just it is the scenario is directly related to marketing itself for that particular event. Hospitality and tourism obviously is directly related to that industry, and then finance is definitely just directly related to just finance specific. Marketing can be more general every year. So that's the only difference.
So I did zoom in on it, James, if that's what you're asking. I also put the link to the 2021 prompt. So yeah, Tina's right. This year will be a little tricky because most people are only teaching this second semester, but that might also be a good, if you are itching to have this as part of your DECA competitive event preparation, discuss this with whoever does your scheduling and see what you can do to get maybe your Sales 2 sections in the fall moving forward, if that works for your student. So this is what the document looks like. The professional selling piece is really referred to the marketing category. The other ones have their own initials, their own categories for competition. And again, we have a separate rubric. So the rubric that we have for the PBM is very, very similar to the one you will see for DECA. But when you see DECA's rubric, they give a range of point values. So it might be 2, 3, or 4 points for one column. So below expectations might be 2, 3, or 4 points. And we are much more concise. It's 3 or nothing on our rubric. So make sure you're using the PBM rubrics when evaluating your students for proficiency.
If you go to the DECA, I just got them in a format that I can read. So I went to the DECA, decadirect.org, and I dropped it in the chat.
Mhm.
And if you go over on the right, you will open up, there's an announcements tab.
Okay.
And if you go, it was on April 22nd, it announced the topics for 2022. Okay. So the marketing is providing a health and safety and auditing consulting solutions. The owner of a chain of convenience stores has scheduled a meeting with you, and he or she is interested in having an independent third party verify that proper protocols are in place at all locations. So that's kind of what does your company do in that area. So those are out there, and it was dated April 22nd.
Okay.
And then you can see the ones for financial and hospitality as well.
Okay. So I'll pull that up and get that linked for you as well. We've gone from virtual college campus tours to health and safety solutions. That's really interesting.